FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem has struck again, firing senior race steward of 15 years, Tim Mayer, after a string of firings so far this year. We're here to go over all of it and why he decided to fire Tim Mayer, which was a very selfish reason and very dictator-esque. So let's get started with the headline. Tim Mayer was fired via text message by one of Mohammed bin Sulayem's assistants on Tuesday, and stated that bin Sulayem had involved himself in the decision-making process of the stewards, who are supposed to be independent. So he's sticking his nose where it shouldn't be because he wants to be the all-ruling dictator, as we all know. And this all stems from, well, allegedly all stems from a right of review, a appeal essentially by the Circuit of the Americas organizers, because they were fined 500,000 euros for the track invasion after the race, which they took a little bit of umbrage with. You know what I mean? They weren't too happy about that, so they wanted to review that and ask for essentially an appeal. And I guess Tim Mayer decided to head that and to be the one to organize that. So Mohammed bin Sulayem did not like that, and a employee there, a senior steward of 15 years, was then fired by text message by one of the assistants of the president. So it couldn't even be, not in person, not a call, not even from the president himself. Just a little absolute fucking bitch move, and has his assistant do it, and he just wipes his hands clean. And I'm sure they said, "Oh yeah, he stepped down," and da 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 da. Yeah, they always say, "Oh, he just steps down." Um, uh, yeah, the whole thing. These comments come after it has been widely reported that Janette, who had been set to replace new Formula One director Rui Marquez in the role of race director, also has left the FIA. So she's gone as well. Everyone's getting fired for some reason, and this is all part of a greater restructuring. Which also, I think it's also a bit, anybody that speaks out or does anything against the president just gets booted. This comes right after, Niels Wittek also stepped down. They claimed he stepped down, and even on the F1 website it says that he steps down. He instantly disputed that and said he did not resign a matter of hours after the FIA announced his departure from the role. So he got canned right after the Brazil Grand Prix. No reason why. They just said that he moved on, da 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 da, all this other bullshit. One that we don't really talk about, and that I hadn't even had my channel around at this point, but earlier in the year, back in May, the first ever FIA CEO, Natalie Robin, announced her departure. So she stepped down as well earlier this year as a part of a greater restructuring for the FIA. And as far as I can see on their website now, it's the president, and the only other executives are these three officers: the president of the Senate, deputy president for sport, and the deputy president for mobility, whatever the hell that means. Three white guys, you know what I mean? So got rid of the woman who was the CEO, and essentially restructured the entire organization to only have these three officers and the president, Mohammed bin Sulayem. So kind of like a reconciliation of power. You know what I mean? I'm sure he just owns all three of these guys too, and they'll do whatever he says. So I'm sure that's what's going on here. And also kind of entangled in this, which might be separate, but I also have to imagine has something to do with this, was the Liberty Media CEO Greg Maffei, whatever the hell, stepping down at the end of the year. He was entangled with the whole Andretti joining F1 thing, and being so openly adamant that they weren't going to join. I also do think it has something to do with the FIA as well. It's all entangled anyway, but worth mentioning. And that's probably the fourth or fifth executive at the FIA that's been fired this year. And every time it's the exact same story. It's they step down, they're moving on to this and that, and then a minute later you hear these guys come out and say, no, that's not what's happening. And then you find out what really happens, and it's because of this right of appeal for the Circuit of the Americas track, which probably the reason that he's not happy about it is because they might win, because we see track invasions at so many different circuits. And I think they were saying specifically that there were still cars coming in on like the cool down lap to the pits, and because they went out so early, that's why they wanted to fine them. But all of these fines just go in the fucking pocket of the president, man. Just like when they fine people for cursing and this and that. And the drivers union even called that out. George Russell spoke about that they want transparency. And when you're just fining people all these monetary fines for this bullshit, and it just ends up going in his pocket, like it's not like it's going back to the drivers, certainly. So it's just, the rich are getting richer, and it seems like he doesn't like anybody stepping in the way of that. And it's going to ruin the sport. It's going to ruin the sport because these people have been around forever, and just like Red Bull is going to have to adjust so much because they have 4 or 5 executives that have been there for over a decade, they're going to have to adjust to that, and they're probably going to take a hit because of that. This organization is going to take the same hit when they fire all these executives that have been keeping things in place and growing for so long, and having to replace them with people that aren't as qualified and are simply just bought and paid for this president until they step out against him. So it's a really bad road we're going down here. I really wish that this would be reflected in the stock prices of Liberty Media, but unfortunately, they keep doing this shit and they just keep growing. So I don't know what's going to stop them. If the money keeps flowing, they're not. He's just going to keep doing whatever he wants, and obviously it's separate, but all of it's all the same thing. It's all entangled, and they're all scratching each other's backs for lack of better terms. Really not a good road we're going down, and this dude is just. Oh God, I probably can't say that on YouTube, huh? He's just really playing into the stereotype. We'll just say that, okay? He's being a real dictator about this, and it's gonna end up not being good for the sport. And I think a lot of drivers, specifically guys like Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, I mean, Hamilton's been around for so long anyway, I don't think it'll make a difference for him at this point. But Verstappen, certainly at this point, just won't want to deal with this shit, man. This guy, and it's always after the races, he's always going up trying to shake hands and try to act like everybody likes him. Everybody fucking hates you. You know it. And he keeps doing shit like this where it's just going to make shit worse. I mean, you replace the race director with 3 races left, and to my knowledge, we didn't have any issues in Las Vegas, but even Niels Wittig said you're going to put a lot of pressure on the guy and put him in a situation to fail because you're giving him no time to, like, he was a steward, now you're going to push him into a race director role. You're going to fire another steward, so now who's going to replace that person? And now this Janette Tan, who was supposed to replace Rui Marquez in the role of race director for Formula 2, Formula 3, has also left the FIA. So it's raining and pouring. Like, it's not. It's the fucking bleeding is not stopping, and he just keeps like stabbing the fucking FIA to keep making it worse. I don't know what we're doing anymore, but there's going to be nobody left by the end of the season. I just can't. It's such unbelievable shit, and he's right. There's a lot of platinum level FIA race directors. This is Tim Mayer, who are the highest level certification. I'm one of them. It's a lot of work to do the job, and they're not doing themselves any favors. They are literally running out of people to do these jobs, which is 100% right. There's no way that there's that many people that are qualified on that high of a level to be a steward or race director, and they're just getting rid of all of them. So. Oh, really, really shit way to end of the season. I don't know how we get out of this dude being the president. I don't know what's going to happen there. But as far as I can see, if he continues doing this, he's just going to burn it to the ground. I don't know. It's just going to be a complete fucking mess, and I think it's going to drive some of these drivers that already have plenty of money and don't really give a fuck anymore just out of the sport earlier. I think it's just going to be really bad for the sport. I know probably a lot of fans don't even really watch, don't even see this happening, and don't really give a fuck. It's in the background, but it's gonna end up rearing its head eventually with all of these firings, and it's not gonna be good. And I'll end it with this: it could literally end in death. It really could. You keep firing race directors, and something goes on where somebody's in the track and whatever happens, and they don't call a red flag. Something happens, like where you're really putting their lives at risk because this is obviously a very it's safe to an extent, but if you have somebody that's like unqualified to be in the position, like overseeing everything, that could really end bad. And I know this dude doesn't give a fuck because he's just worried about whatever's best for him, but I hope it doesn't. I hope it doesn't end up in something like that because this is already a fucking mess with this guy, and he's just getting worse and worse. It's every time anybody says anything negative. It's not like even in this appeal here, it was anything negative towards the race director, just the FIA or towards the president, just the FIA in general, and just because he took offense to him offering them an appeal, not even saying they're going to get it, but just offering the process of appeal, a democratic process. He had to come in as a dictator and shoot that right down. And I'm sure this appeal will be gone anyway and probably won't even happen now. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I'll be back later with my predictions, and yeah, fuck Mohammed Ben Sulayem. Bye.